Okay.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Dan Schittner here, and I'm so excited about this episode as I am every episode. But this episode's a little bit different. My guest is the one, the only, the big cheese. He's cut the cheese. Say cheese and smile. No Swiss cheese. There's no holes in his plan. He's got a book in his hand. That's my edition of the hernia wrap. We'll call it the hemorrhoid snap. John Bermuda Schwartz, how you doing?
Hi. Good. I'm doing good, Dan. Thank you.
Good. Oh, it's so exciting to have you on for
Oh,
this.
thanks.
What I
Hello, everybody in Drum Talk TV land.
Yeah, and I consider this a special episode because you have something really, really special that we're going to talk about that you've been kind of sitting on for years and years and years. But folks, tell us where you're watching from. John's in Los Angeles. I'm in Globe, Arizona, 100 miles east of Phoenix, and we want to know where you're watching from. We'll take questions. If you're not familiar with Weird Al Yankovic, now is the time to dial in. John's been the drummer forever. Get a load of this. It's been the same band members for 38 years. In 38 years, I've been married 4 times, have 11 kids, 19 grandkids. What band stays together for that long other than, John, like you said earlier when we were chatting, ZZ Top and U2? But that's 3 guys. You guys are...
It's 4, it's the 4 core band members.
Yeah.
Even if you count Ruben on keyboards, he's been around like 30 years.
Yeah.
So, we still got a ton of band speed.
Yeah, but you're still hazing him as the new guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And all those gold and platinum records on the wall back there are just a smidgen of what they've accomplished as a band. Yeah, staying together that long. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Amazing. So, John,
we've been very lucky, and the fans have obviously made it all possible. I mean, we wouldn't have all this if they didn't go out and buy records. I remember when people bought records. It's been a while, but they used to buy albums and songs and singles and cassettes, and stuff, 8-tracks.
And they're kind of coming back, the albums. And I think the thing I'm most excited about that whole aspect is that I still have not gotten used to this, where an album cover is reduced to this thing, and I have to get this out to read the liner notes. It's like,
oh, I know.
Such beautiful artists and amazing photographers when you look at Hugh Syme, Hypnosis, all the greats, and now their artwork is reduced. Well, now not just to that, but a little thumbnail online for the download, and I think that it's really impacted the artistic value of making records.
Well, it's a package. I mean, it's the whole thing. It's not just the music.
Right.
It was holding the album and reading the lyrics while you were listening to it and looking at the pictures and reading the credits, for other musicians, seeing who those players are and who the engineers are and who got thanked and all of that stuff. It's very cool. If there's people pictured on the cover or in the back and they're not listed somewhere, you're trying to figure out who they are. Is it someone's, wife or girlfriend, or is it a cop? Is it, one of the engineers? I mean, it was something you took in as a whole. It wasn't just about the audio, and in the last, 10 to 15 years, with the proliferation and the capability of the internet, it has become an audio thing. Yeah. Yes, you can download videos, which we didn't really have 40 years ago, that we could access. But, that's sort of cool, but it's still not a package. It's still not something to put up on the shelf,
Exactly. And
I like putting things on the shelf.
And we have something to put on the shelf. It's your book that's coming out soon. Let's talk about the book. Folks, you can see the cover on our player. But, John, why don't you snap up that other background? Whoa! Black and white and weird all over there. He is Weird Al Yankovic. All over. Now, that picture is from somewhere between 83 and 86, right?
That was from 1983.
And Al has not changed. What is the deal?
He took off the glasses and the mustache and stuff. But he's always he looks the same. I mean, he hasn't really changed much, and a lot of that is just his diet. He's been vegan and vegetarian for well over 30 years.
Wow.
And I have to attribute, that to a lot of it. Yeah. I don't think he goes out in the sun a whole lot. So his, skin isn't, he's not getting a whole lot of unnecessary wrinkles and stuff.
Right.
And he takes good care of himself,
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about the book. And first, I have something to say, and then I'd like you to talk about the book and this labor of love. But we're going to show a bunch of pictures, folks, about 8 or a dozen pictures from the book, so you get a killer sneak peek. But I
Oh,
grew, yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah. Hang on a sec. I was going to reference those.
Okay.
Doggone it. Hang on.
No worries. While you're doing that, I'll tell my little story. I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up in the West San Fernando Valley, and I remember late at night, I think it was Sundays, I remember turning on KMET, my favorite rock station, the rival to KLOS, right next door on the dial, and listening to Dr. Demento and laughing my arse off to Monty Python, to Weird Al Yankovic. I mean, he was like the trademark music soundtrack of everything Dr. Demento did. Weird Al was there, and you were there. Your guys' music was there, and I grew up on this stuff, and here I am, a grandpa, interviewing the drummer who's been with them forever. John went to school with Abraham Lincoln, by the way. We'll get to that after the book segment. Just kidding. You guys started young because you're really not that much older than I am.
No. You're 30. I'm 34.
Exactly.
So, not bad.
Exactly. So tell us about this labor of love. And folks, I'll give some shout outs in a moment. Keep the comments coming. Keep questions coming. Tell us where you're watching from.
Well, let me put it this way. I always had a camera in my hand since I was a teenager, and I had a dark room at home and developed my own black and white film and printed pictures and stuff. And so I always had, which looking back, I mean, that cost money, even if you didn't take stuff to a lab or a photomat back in the day.
Yeah.
That still cost. You had to go buy chemicals and paper and stuff like that.
Wash, everything. Yeah.
And so I always just had a penchant for shooting photos. So when I met Al, I mean, literally, the night I met him, I didn't have a camera with me. That would have been a little presumptuous. That was the night we were on the Dr. Demento show live. And I thought, you know what? I was there being interviewed, actually. Oh. And I thought, not the time or place, but the very next time I saw Al, I had a camera in my hand. And I probably, every time I saw him or anybody, any of my bands, I always had a camera with me. In the same way we now have, if you have a smartphone, you have a camera. You can always take pictures, videos. I mean, you can, and you don't even think about it. You're ready to take a picture. Well, that's how I was with the camera in my hand. And at some point I had 2 cameras. One had black and white film, one had color.
Oh, nice.
So on the video sets I shot both. Now, in the early days, I only shot color. I wasn't living at home anymore, processing
they
black
had
and
color then?
Oh yeah. Only 2 colors, but through the magic of Photoshop, you can make them look pretty reasonable. So, like this brick wall, for example, looks. I mean, it's knock. It's real brick, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I shot a lot of color with Al, and then when it came time to shoot these videos, the first video, the second video, where this photo's from, I Love Rocky Road. I also shot black and white. I thought, well, these. There's a certain vibe, there's a texture, there's a feeling that black and white evokes.
Right.
And I thought, that'd be very cool to shoot black and white, as well as color. I mean, and everyone has seen color pictures from our video shoots, but they've never seen these black and white shots because, back in the day, color, I didn't have a dark room. You didn't really take black and white to a 24-hour lab or to a 1-hour photo place. I mean, they could do it, sort of, but all of these shots, I shot 22 rolls of film in black and white during that period, 83 to 86, and they just never, I haven't done anything with them. They've just been sitting in a file cabinet. A couple of some of the pictures from I Love Rocky Road and from the Ricky video, some of them, about a dozen or 2, we blew up into 8x10s, and some of those have been seen, but the vast majority that are in this book have not been seen. And the ones that have been seen haven't been seen in this quality because these were taken right from the negatives. Wow. These are like very high def scans, meaning I didn't do them. They were done right. And they really look good. I mean, you can see the grain in these photos. If we go in close enough, you can see the grain. You don't even see the pixels yet because the grain is just there.
Yeah, that's
the resolution.
They're probably of the quality where at some point, I don't know if you've thought of this, but perhaps a limited edition of posters or cliches or something that are bigger.
So some of the pictures could certainly look good as posters. We originally were talking about before COVID hit. This book started. Well, it actually started 3 years ago for me, but it really got underway back in December. And the publisher and I were had a sort of a timeline, and we were talking about going out and doing like some book, and gallery launches, and doing up some big prints of the pictures, to just have hang in the gallery to make a nice to make a scene.
Yeah.
Well, COVID became a reality, really in March for everybody.
Yeah.
And in this country. And happily, it didn't really change anything in terms of the book. We were still underway. We were still moving forward. The book went to the printer in June on schedule. It will be released in late October. October 27th is the release date.
Okay.
On schedule. And it hasn't.
People can pre-order now, right? Via the link.
They can pre-order. Amazon has got it up. They can pre-order at one of their favorite bookstores, actually, because the book has got distribution to all of the indie retailers.
Right.
Barnes and Noble will have it at some point. It's not in their system right now, but Amazon's got it in their system, and it is already. It's funny, they don't have a graphic of the book up yet. It's been up. Well, it's been up for a little over 24 hours, but they still don't have a graphic of the book yet. The book is a #1 bestseller in celebrity photography.
Wow.
In some other photography, I forget what kind of. It's like the #1 seller, and it's #1 in musician and composer biographies, which is interesting because it's far from a biography. There's some text in there. The book is chapterized. There's 6 chapters that have to do with the Ricky video is a chapter. I Love Rocky Road. Eat It video is a chapter. There's a couple of chapters of us in the studio. The living with a hernia videos and so on. So I've got a little bit of text, and it's mercifully short. It's 2 or 3, 4 short paragraphs talking about the images or some anecdotes from that shoot. In some cases it was 1 or 2 days. There's a 3 or 4 day period where we're in the studio. So it talks a little bit about that, but that's the extent of the text, really. I mean, my introduction, and Al wrote the foreword. I mean, the introduction and the foreword comprise the bulk of the text for the entire book. Yeah. The rest of it, 98% of the book is these photographs, no captions, no nothing, just right. It's literally a photo book. And they really turned out great. I mean, they really.
Let's show some of them. Let's go through the list. I'll bring up the cover first, okay? So John and I coordinated this so that I can click through these and he'll describe them, even though he can't see them. He'll know which one's up. So let's bring up the cover first, which is right there. There's Weird Al, and there's the name of the book. Where was that one shot? The cover? Do you remember?
That was the Agua Dulce Air Park in like Santa Clarita or something like that. Yeah. A little north of LA.
Yep.
Other side of those mountains.
Hiking and on picnics there with my parents when I was young. It's where all the rocks are on like a 40-degree slant. Yeah. That's Agua Dulce Park, which is kind of nearby there.
Okay, yeah. That's near the Vasquez Rocks.
Yeah.
And all that. Okay, so it's near there. It's literally an airstrip with a small building that was set up as like a diner, I guess. It had a counter in there, a lunch counter and booths and stuff. So they thought, great, this is a great place to bring a bunch of people out and equipment, and it was probably cheap to rent because it was empty. I don't think it was a functioning diner at all. Right. And they set it up like sort of a malt shop, an ice cream shop kind of a thing. And that's where we shot it. And it was about a 24-hour shoot. It started early in the morning as they do and went well past midnight, as I recall. And so that was shot outside, not facing, he was probably standing on the airstrip.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that was necessarily during a scene. I mean, if I'm not in a scene, I'm shooting the picture of the scene being shot.
Right.
But that was, I think, hey, I'll come over here. Let me shoot some pictures. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he was a very, very willing subject, thankful. And even now, if I point a phone or whatever at him, he does something. He smiles or he looks or he gives a bad look or whatever, but he acknowledges it. He doesn't turn away or say, stop that. It's just,
right.
and he never did that. Consequently, I have tens of thousands of photos,
wow.
That I've shot, but these are different because these are really the only black and white ones that I ever shot. Once I stopped in 86, I shot the Living with a Hernia video. That was the last time I shot black and white of any kind. So that's part of the lure. One, they have a certain texture. Two, of course, it's Al behind the scenes, which there's some photos, but not as many as these.
Yeah.
There's some cool people in some of these shots. They're black and white, but they've never been seen before. And the ones that haven't been seen in this quality. And that's the whole purpose of this book. It's not just, he's trotting out these photos again. Well, some of them, yes, but they look great now.
Right. Let's look at this has got to be one of my favorites. It's coming up, folks. Number one, tell us about this. Are you playing Babalu right there?
That's from the Ricky video, and that's Al as Desi Arnaz as Ricky Ricardo for the video, and playing the conga drum. And there's some lyrics in there that refer to the conga drum, but of course that was Desi's instrument.
Yeah.
So that's just, and again, that was just hey Al, look, and he's
It's funny. I actually thought it was you.
Oh no! Well,
because I know you're in some of them. I totally forgot about this video.
Right. Well, that's Al sans mustache.
Yeah.
And with a short wig on.
Yeah.
So that's the first time, to my knowledge, that he had cut off his mustache, and he shaved it off. And I have photos of him in the bathroom shaving his mustache.
Awesome.
But they're color, so they don't go in the book.
Right.
But a couple of those have been seen. I mean, I've put those online. I mean, they're not, if there's anything Al really was embarrassed about, he would tell me.
Yeah.
And by the way, all of the photos in the book, and there's some that I thought were maybe a little embarrassing. I ran all of them by Al before, doing this to him. And he said, no, all good. I said, even that one and that one and that one. He says, yeah, go for it.
That's great.
So everything, he's not going to be mad about anything that's in the book.
Good. I love this one, number 2. It's a very classic behind the scenes type of photo. There's the photog again. It's that kind of look.
Yeah, that's one of only. There's only been a few times he's sort of given me that look, like, all right, enough with the camera already, Bermuda. You got enough photos today, right? That's which, of course, makes a great photo, right?
Yes.
I've got a photo. I got a photo of him with his hand up. I mean, I've got a photo of him doing this. I mean, kind of like, enough with the camera, but not very many. I mean, there's, a half a dozen of those kind of photos. That's a great photo. If you didn't know that he was giving me the stink eye, you would say, wow, that's like a really nice, serious photo of Al. But it's more like, all right, put the camera away kind of photo. So had to put it in the book, and Al said, okay. So there you go.
That's great. I love that one. Let's go to number 3. I love all of them. I should just stop saying that. I love all of them. Number 3 on the counter of the faux malt shop you were talking about.
Right. Again, that's the I Love Rocky Road video. Yeah. And that was, I don't remember if there's a scene like that in the video or he was just doing shtick for me. I mean, there are scenes of him on the counter, but I don't know if that was a post shot or if that's something I shot while the camera was also rolling. I mean, again, if I'm not in a shot, I've got my camera and I'm taking pictures of Al being in the shot, and I'm making sure I get the camera and the lights and just very behind the scenes. And that's something that you don't really see a lot. I mean, you see it a lot now, the making of videos of things, but you didn't really see that back then. And that was what was cool. I mean, these weren't, plus I was the only guy on set with the camera. I mean, the video camera, but I was the only guy doing production stills.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know what that meant, I shot photos, and they turned out to be production stills. They turned out to be valuable, in some way.
Oh yeah. Let's go to number 4. I love this. Is great.
That's
airplane.
Now, I have to preface that. It's like, well, if you shot, I mean, I'm the photographer in this book. Well, if you're the photographer, how come you're in some of the pictures? What did you set it up and run back and take a selfie? Not quite. In this chapter, in the I Love Rocky Road chapter, musical Mike Kiefer was in the video, and he's the guy that does a hand thing, and he's in the video, and he's in a couple of scenes, but when he wasn't in a scene for most of the video, he's an old friend of ours and one of Dr. Demento's cast members on the show back in the day, and he, and also kind of the discography kind of guy. He was the authority on old 78s and stuff like that, along with Demento. So any pictures that I'm in, he took them with my camera.
Ah, he's the one. Okay.
So he's the one. He's the guy who makes this not 100% my photo book. And the reason I included pictures of me, and it's not like I had to be in my own book, but I included pictures of me because some of the pictures, ironically, were so good, not because of me, but some of the pictures, like that picture of us up by the plane, I couldn't not include that.
Right.
I couldn't not have that in the book. So it's like, well, if I'm going to be in that picture, there's a couple more that I'm in. I'll be in those two. So I'll throw in a handful of pictures. There's like 5 or 6 that you can see me in that Musical Mike took, and for which he is thanked, of course, and he gets a photo credit, of course.
Yeah.
But that particular picture was one. It's one of the. It might be the only picture where all 4 of us and Dr. Demento are in the same picture.
Yeah.
And it's a nice picture. It's a decent picture. So the picture originally was a smaller photo in the book. Now, I had complete editorial control over this thing, which meant they cooked something up and ran it past me. And if I had something to say about it, they would consider it, or they would do it, or they would say no, or what. But I always had. Everything was run by me. So that was the one change. Everything was laid out really, really nice. I think that was the one change I made. They originally had it as a smaller picture on one page. I said, that's the only picture of everyone together in this entire book. And I think it's a nice picture, and I think it deserves to be across both pages. In other words, that's going to be a 12-inch by 18-inch photo. That's a big photo. And I said, that being the one photo, it needs to be bigger. One, they need to see it. 2, that's probably going to be the page when fans come around with the book. We're all going to sign that page.
Yes, exactly.
So that's good. So that's important that be big. And I said, but wait a minute. What about the gutter of the book? That's going to interrupt the photo. That's going to put this valley in. He says, no, the books are being side sewn, which means the edges are not glued together. They're sewn. So it's a really nice seam. It comes up, and the book essentially lays flat. You could lay it flat on your coffee table. I think that's why they call it a coffee table book.
Yeah.
And you can see, except very thin thread down the middle, it's flat. So there's no gutter to, messing up any of these photos. So once they told me that, because there's some photos that go across both pages, not all the way, but somewhat, and just for effect, and they're going to look good. They're going to look really well. They do look good. I've seen a layout of the whole book, and everything that's in there is really good. They made some really good layout and editorial decisions, and I'm very, very proud. It's 1984 Publishing is the company, and Shane and Desiree Lewis worked on the layouts and fixed up some of the things. And they're youngish, and they happen to be Al fans somewhat. So in laying out the book, they knew what should be big and what should be chosen. I mean, they went through a lot of photos and picked out the best ones. I thought I picked out the best ones. They really picked the best ones and narrowed it down to a manageable number. I mean, you can't, we would have a book this thick if we had all of the photos in there. Yeah. So if there were 10 photos that looked really, really similar, I thought we really don't need all 10. We could get by with, 1 or 2 maybe, or 3 maybe, but we don't need every single stinking photo in this book. So they made really, really good decisions. And the only thing I think where I had, a suggestion was to put this one photo across both pages, and it was specifically for signing purposes. Right. I really wanted to be able to open up the book and have everyone's signature on one page, which means fans have to be able to get to all 4 of us, which is not that difficult, really, when we're on the road. But they have to also get to Dr. Demento, and that's not quite that easy. But, right. I'm sure some of the fans that have a book that can see him once in a while, they're going to bring him a book, and that's the page. I'm going to recommend that, when you go in and you sign a page, sign that page. There's also a really nice, and I think it goes across 2 pages, of Dr. Demento standing at the cash register.
Oh.
Just kind of behind the counter. And that's like a really nice, that's a really cool shot of him. Great. So if he wants to sign that page, he's welcome to do that.
Yeah, perfect. Let's look at number 5 is coming up.
Yeah.
Talk about this one.
That's, Al had not seen a mic prior to that, apparently. He goes, what is this thing? No, that's Lisa Popeil. Now, Lisa Popeil, this was when we were recording our second album, and this was end of 1983, October, I think, of 1983. And Lisa Popeil was a background singer, a well-known singer. She was also is also the daughter of Sam Popeil. Now, Sam Popeil is the guy that invented all of these, the Vegematic, all of these as seen on TV things.
Oh,
He's the guy that really started that, maybe in the late 50s.
wow.
But even in the 60s, like we had a Vegematic at home, for example.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that started all that, Pocket Fisherman, all those things. And Lisa is his daughter.
Wow.
And then her brother, Ron Popeil, who's the guy you've been seeing on TV for the last 20 years,
Yeah.
who's kind of carried on the tradition and made all these other things, the hairspray business and all these other things that he's got. That's her brother.
Wow.
And he's also the head of Ronco,
Yes.
had record albums and all sorts of other, cool things. Anyway, so there's sort of a dynasty there. And she was in there recording a song called Mr. Popeil. So, of course,
Funny.
who do you get on a song about Mr. Popeil in the style of the B-52s? It's one of Al's originals,
Yeah.
but it's in style of B-52. So you had to have, the girls singing on there. So she sang backup on Mr. Popeil, a song about her
Your
dad.
dad. Yeah.
But she continued to work with us over the years. She went on the road with us in 2019 last year with the Symphony Tour.
Oh, wow.
She was one of the 3 backup singers on that tour.
Wow,
So it was
I
very
didn't
cool.
know that. That
And
is
I think
very cool. Very
I
nice.
don't think we did Mr. Popeil on that tour, but and the fans all know who she is, and it was just really cool. So she worked on that album and some others with us, and is also a good friend of ours as well. And so that's Lisa Popeil, and that's why she was there specifically.
Great. Let's look at this one, number 5, in the control room.
Is that with Al at the keyboard with his hand up?
Yes.
Yeah, that's him going, "Nah, you don't need to take this picture." So
And
now
it's in the book.
Now you see 2 of those pictures where Al is like, don't shoot me. Yeah, that's Al did a lot of the keyboards and stuff on the records. Sometimes we had, Pat Regan did, and there's some other pictures in the book of Pat also working in the studio. But Al would do stuff, or maybe he would show Pat something, knowing that Pat could, slick it up a little bit. He'd give Pat an idea, and then Pat was a little more technical at the time. Al has become quite a good keyboard player with both hands. Now, being an accordion player, his right hand is accustomed to a keyboard, of course, but his left hand had a very different thing. So it took a few years for him to accustom his left hand to doing chords and runs and things like that. Right. He's become very good. He did all of the keyboards on our last album, in fact. Wow. And he's had a keyboard. He's had Ruben on keyboards for, however many years, since 91, 92. Yet Al, did all the keyboards on there.
Oh, wow.
And not because Ruben can't play. I mean, it just, Al was just like, I got this. I'm good.
Yeah.
I can play keyboards.
Yeah. Skips a step. Just go from his head to the keyboard.
Yeah. And ironically, we had number 1 album with Al playing keyboards. I wonder if that's coincidence. Anyway.
Interesting.
Could be. So the guy next to Al is his manager, Jay Levy, who is still Al's manager.
Wow.
And Jay had been around actually since 1981.
Wow.
And as Al's manager, and Jay was Dr. Demento's manager, and Al asked him early in 81 if he could kind of look after things, and before you knew it, there he was. So Jay is, for no apparent reason, holding my ratchet. I don't know why. There's I think a picture in the book of Rick Derringer holding the ratchet. I don't know. It was a very popular item besides, me using it in the studio probably for the polka medley. It was a very popular item. Part 2 of the book photo.
Yeah.
Same book. Now here's a bigger version of Al.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's redundant, but I was getting tired of that brick wall.
That's okay. And
okay.
Here's number 7, which is pretty self-explanatory, but go ahead. And I couldn't do that. I can't put stuff in my eyes. I will not wear contacts.
Well, they went over his eyes.
Okay.
They were literally. It was a ping pong ball that was cut in half.
Oh, it looks like it now. Yeah.
And was then basically put over his eye and with some kind of stuff to keep it on. But they didn't, even though there's sort of a cat eye thing down the middle, they didn't put a little hole so he could see. He was blind, so they had to walk him over. There was only one scene that was done, and they had to walk him over to the. He was like sitting on the edge of the bed, and then he sort of came up into the camera with those eyes. So they would sit him down and go, okay, no, turn a little bit, because he couldn't see where the camera was.
Yeah.
So they had to position him for the starting thing, and then, tell him, okay, turn around. They'd rehearsed it, turn around to about this point. Yeah. And that's how he knew, or they may have even said, stop.
Yeah.
Who knows? And I have color pictures of that as well. That was one of the videos where I had two cameras. So there's an entire color photo counterpart to everything that's in this Eat It chapter. And it's pretty well balanced. I probably had 6-7 rolls of color and 6 or 7 rolls of black and white. But the black and white, and none of the black and white from Eat It has ever been seen. None of those have been seen.
Wow. Let's look at the next one, number 8. Folks, I hope you're enjoying this. I promise I'll get to comments, questions, and shout outs. I promise. Wait, before you talk about this one, how many of you are old enough to remember, let alone old enough to have had one of those enormous beta video machines that's down on the bottom of that dollar? Oh, John!
I had a U-matic machine, of all things.
Oh, wow.
Which is a giant, for those who don't know, U-matic is 3/4-inch videotape. It was basically sort of a compact industry thing. They would put things on U-matic and commercials or TV shows or whatever, because it was much simpler than dealing with spools of video.
Yeah.
And then that got shrunk down to beta and VHS, and then 8mm, and then eventually just phone.
Yeah, it was the first, I believe, cassette format of videotape, actually.
Yeah. That's anyway. So I had that. I never had beta, but I had a VHS machine. I mean, I had these giant machines, and now they have a box that does it, and well, now you have a phone and just whatever. These kids, I'm telling you.
So reviewing footage here, the dailies.
They are this is actually Jay and Al. Now Jay directed the Eat It video. That was his first directorial job for Al.
Okay.
And they are going over. They're literally watching the Beat It video, and if you look closely, you can see on the screen it's Michael Jackson, and they're watching. They're just like saying, okay, he does this on the beat, and he turns this way, and they're sort of rehearsing, because a lot of Al's videos, most of them copy as much as humanly possible, copy the original video. So they're watching what Michael's doing so that Al can do those exact moves.
I love it.
And there I am with a camera, shooting them, watching that between takes. So that's what and most of the shots, well, they're all literally behind the scenes shots.
Yeah.
None of these are taken from screen grabs from the video. These are what, if you were standing in there watching us do this stuff, that's what you would see. And if you had complete color blindness, that's how you would see it, as in black and white. That's the cool part. There's a certain texture to it that's really cool.
Yeah. Like you said, it evokes something completely differently. Did Al ever get feedback from Michael about that video? In the song?
Yeah. I mean, Michael liked it. Michael was a fan.
Yeah.
He definitely he thought it was funny. I believe, maybe not that video, but I believe when the Fat video came out, which was parody of Bad in 1988.
I remember that.
I believe that Michael ordered a whole bunch of copies of it, and it was probably VHS or beta back in the days. Ordered a bunch of copies to hand out to his friends because he just thought it was great. Plus, on that video, and I wasn't on set on that because I wasn't in the video at all, and I had injured myself. Otherwise, I would have gone in there with a camera and taken a bunch of pictures. So I don't have any behind the scenes stuff there. But it was shot on the same set at the what was the Culver Studios back in the day, which became the Sony Studios in Culver City. Yeah. And it was shot on the same set that Michael used for another version of the Bad video called, affectionately called Baby Bad. And it was all with kids. Yeah. So they reconstructed this entire subway set, which looked very convincing, but it was all a set. Yeah. And Al got in there, it was still up, and Michael and his production people said, yeah, go ahead, feel free. Grab it before it gets torn down. And so that was shot on the same set in the same place that Michael did a version of Bad.
That is so cool.
And the reason none of the band was in the video, we weren't big enough. I mean,
Really?
there had to be like all those guys in there, all the heavy guys in there were all seriously heavy.
Oh wow!
We
And I
just we,
remember Al's fat suit. I remember
well,
that.
they,
So
they made him a suit. They weren't going to do that for us, so they said no. You have to really be fat to be in this video. So that's
oh,
we weren't really
that's
invited to be in it.
hilarious. Let's look
So
at
I didn't get my dollar. You know, they give you $1 when you do that.
Oh really?
I didn't get my dollar. So I may have to put out a. Well, I don't even have pictures to put out a book. I was going to say I'll put out a book and that way I can make $1. But I don't even have pictures from there. So whatever.
That's so funny. This is a great photo. This is we're on number 9.
Ooh, that's they were standing there ready to do a routine, obviously, and maybe Al was waiting for a light to be moved or for somebody to look through. Maybe they had the right shot. He's just kind of waiting and just kind of looking and all that. It's just like so. What the heck? I shot pictures.
Yeah.
Now the guy to the right of him,
yeah,
on his left, but to the right, the guy in like the striped shirt, that's Vincent Patterson. Vince Patterson was also the white gang leader in the Beat It video.
Oh, really?
So he came, and I believe he was choreographer on the Beat It video, or may have set up the dancers, and but he also worked with Michael. He worked with Madonna. I mean, he did a lot of choreography for a lot of people back in the day, and was in several of the videos. I think he was on board for Smooth Criminal. I mean, he really did a lot of stuff with Michael and everyone who was big. So that was extremely cool for him to be in there, and it sort of really ties it into the Beat It video a little bit more. So that's him standing there. Now in the book, I had some questions. And I was able to get a hold of him. Imagine not ever talking to someone for 35 years, 36 years, and suddenly you want to get in touch with them. And I was able to do it. And, of course, the first part of such a communication, I have to explain who you are. Yeah. It's hi, I'm Sean Bermuda Schwartz. I was a drummer with Weird Al. I'm still the drummer with Weird Al. I was on set on the Eat It video and shot all those photos. So he would sort of put it, oh, you're the guy with the camera that was in everyone's face. Oh, okay, great. I said, well, I was probably with 2 cameras in everyone's face, but that's close enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to ask him some stuff about that because I'm trying to get a hold of people so I can write a little bit of something interesting about these videos.
Yeah.
And because frankly, I and Al and even Musical Mike and some of the others who are key, we don't really remember that much. I mean, I asked Jay Levy about some stuff about the Eat It video that he directed, and he's like, la 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 la, I don't know. Yeah. And so I have to get in touch with some other people that and piece together some information rather than here's some Eat It pictures or something.
Right.
So I got a hold of Vince, and he gave me a really good tidbit of information, and I write about it in the book, and write about it. I mention it. And that is, there's a scene where he and the other gang leader are holding this rubber chicken between them, like 2 guys fighting would have a rope or something or a cloth tied around so they couldn't get away from each other. And, they're doing that. And they got a rubber chicken between them. Anyway, he's got the rubber chicken. He went home with that.
So funny.
Well, if it hadn't been him, it would have been me. I mean, I collect all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So that would have been very, very cool. But he's got the rubber chicken, and I mentioned that in the book. So it was very cool that I was able to talk to him, and I got his permission to use a bunch of photos of him. Anyone who was prominent in the book, I asked them, one, would you like to see the photos? Can I run them by you just to make sure you're cool?
Yeah.
And I think without exception, everyone said no. We trust you. And Al had already approved everything anyway. And I may have told him that. I said, Al's cool with all of his stuff. Do you want a right of refusal on any of these? And nobody did. Everyone was like, no, we trust you. We know you're going to only use the best shots and, not any stupid shots of us. Although, frankly, that's, up for debate. I mean, that's a matter of opinion as to what is stupid or not. But they're all fun or cool shots.
That's hilarious. Just for the sake of time, because I do want to get to some drumming questions, I'm going to show 2 more pictures, and I'm going to go back and forth between them. I'm going to show the A and the B photos. Here's John up close. It's coming up. Here's John up close taking a photo of Weird Al. Like, that's about as close as you can get for a close-up. And then here's the photo coming up that was generated from that. So we'll kind of click. There's the photo. There's John taking the photo. And the whoops, not that. And the photo again. And
Yeah.
John taking the photo.
So that was, I mean, that was a bit much. I mean, I literally had my camera in Al's face, obviously a wide angle lens. That was at the Dr. Demento show.
Oh,
and it was within the period of the book. So, I mean, it does fit the narrative of the 1983 to 86 timeline. Now, that's the only other picture of me taking the picture of Al. That's the only other picture that I didn't take. That was taken by Bill Burke, who goes by Beefalo Bill Burke.
Yes.
Beefalo Bill, who was another one of the cast members on the show at the time.
Yeah.
So he gets a photo credit. Anyway, so that was I swear to God, I didn't know that picture existed until pretty recently.
Wow.
Bill was aware I was doing this book, and he says, I have some pictures you might be interested in. And 35 years later, I see that picture, and I saw some other cool pictures he took of the night I met Al, of us rehearsing another one right of us that I'd never seen before. And suddenly, out of the woodwork, these pictures come, in that case, 40 years later.
Right.
And it was very cool. So I'm sure he's got some, he should put out a book. Bill can put out a book. Bill put out a book.
That's cool. Bill, put the book out.
So that was pretty cool. So that's what those photos were about. In all honesty, those were both color photos. And they could have been printed in color because the book is technically in color. They're just all desaturated photos.
Right.
But all the photos in there, I believe, are RGB photos. So they could have very easily printed some color and made the rest of it black and white. But we thought, no, you know what? Everything in there is going to be black and white except these two photos. Let's make them black and white and just really fit in. And they fit in that timeline.
Right.
And so that's why those are there. But that's a really cool, I mean, that's like my favorite photo because there's not that many photos of he and I together where we're not both looking at the camera. That's a photo of me doing what I did so often around him, which was taking his picture.
Right. That's awesome.
And again, he was a really good sport. You could, he's looking into the camera, but he's not really mad. I mean, he's like, have fun, take a picture. I'll look into the camera, for you. It's like, that's really cool. A lot of guys would not do that,
Exactly.
And he still does that. He still does that with me.
Good. Let's get to some shout outs and see if anyone has any questions. We've got people from let me go all the way to the top actually. Hey Chip Ritters down in Tucson, great drummer. We've got Traverse City, Michigan. Hey Joe, how are you? He's been an Al listener since the 80s and a drummer since the early 90s. And you're one of my heroes, Bermuda. So there you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's from Joe Erlewin. And we've got, hey, Frank, Karen, Ken from Ohio, Colorado Springs, Frank Sanchez. Hey, Dan from South Wales, Mike Skinner. Thanks for joining us again. Black and white contrast give real atmosphere from Mike Skinner. We've got people from all over. Cool. Some really good comments. John will go through these later as well. So if you're watching this on the archive, if you missed the live or you missed some of it, watch it again, add your questions or comments. Change the background to drums, please.
Ask and you shall receive.
Let's talk some drums. That's
got your north drum there. You got a north and a staccato drum up there. You got an old bass drum there.
Yeah.
You got snares. Sin drums. Do, 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 do.
Yeah.
Oh, gold record on the floor. I guess I didn't.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's an Impact. Got some Impact electronic drums. Impact with a K.
Wow.
They're like I would bring them in a little closer, but
yeah.
Yeah,
you don't want to trip over anything.
No, not likely. But
I still have
two
my
gold
Simmons
records.
drums, by the way.
Drum machine.
Yeah, I have a set of 1983 Simmons SDX 5s.
Wow.
And
nice.
have not had them set up for years, but they were set up with my big, enormous kit. I never had them set up alone ever. They were just thrown in with my big kit.
Those are very cool.
Yeah,
Those are
I love them.
those made not widely known, but those make like really like ethnic. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not very appropriate when you hit those.
Yeah.
I mean, they were very Hebraic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Choo, 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 choo,
Yeah.
choo, choo.
Yeah, and even like the drums that sounded almost like wooden
Oi.
logs and stuff like that. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Hey, so John, I want to ask you a question, a drumming question.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we never made it to Bermuda. We were going to do the very first Drum Talk Tea event. It was going to be you, myself, my wife Venja, of course, Ray Islis, and Mr. De Los Reyes, both from Chicago. Peter Lockett was going to join us. We had some other great musicians, and we weren't able to do that. And the question I want to ask is, when we were putting that event together, these other musicians were each going to teach a class each day. It was going to be 4 days of classes, groups of 10 people, and they were going to rotate to each person's class. Wally De Los Reyes and Ray Islis were going to do a percussion and drum set class together. Peter Lockett was going to do world percussion. And then I can't give up the other names, but we were talking to some other amazing female drummers. That close to everything being done and signed, and then COVID hit and all that. But when we were planning everything, I asked you, I said, John, do you want a day to teach a class? And you said, no, I'm good. And by the way, folks, the reason John was going was because they named the freaking island after him. Bermuda, come on. How could I not take Bermuda Schwartz with me? But he was going to be my co-host, co-MC. We were going to shoot a documentary around Bermuda. And John and I were going to go shopping and go sailing and go snorkeling. All these things with our 2 wives behind us. Because, behind every great man, there's a woman shaking her head. So our wives were going to come and do that. And when I asked John about doing class, he said, no, I'm good. And I said, I thought that was kind of weird. And I said, well, what's up? Like, why? And John, you were very honest in something you said that I want to bring up. And I'd like you to give the value to this. You said, most drummers just don't want to know about 2 and 4. And you've made a great living as a pocket player, a great living being a lean, mean timekeeping machine, so that Al and the rest of the band could be, the peripheral around. You've had a great backup band, by the way, all these years, around that heartbeat. But like you said, a lot of drummers are too interested in learning really fast chops, or granted, with all due respect and good value, I want to learn jazz now, which I never learned, or I want to learn Latin beats, but not a lot of drummers want to just sit down and work and shed on 2 and 4. Can you talk about that? And please let especially the younger drummers know why that's so important and why that's so valuable.
Well, I don't begrudge drummers or a musician of any kind that wants to shred, that wants to do a lot of technical. It's exciting.
Right. And you've done
very
it.
exciting.
For those who don't know, John's actually the drummer on Brain Salad Surgery, on Zeppelin 4. I think you did 2112. That had some technical stuff in it.
Yeah. They had this other guy come in on it. He went over my stuff and messed it all up. I don't know. It was really good before that guy. What's that guy with the shampoo? Anyway.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I had to. But
No,
yeah, John
I-
definitely appreciates all sorts of music and styles of drumming. It's not an issue of that.
Yeah, no, and I'm a big fan of technical stuff. I mean, I listened to all of Zappa's drummers early on, and at the time, and for me, and at my age, that was all very technical stuff. Even looking back, it's like, well, it's certainly all doable. I mean, now, by the time you got Vinny and Chad and Terry, that was like another level. But I'm talking about Jimmy Carl Black and all the guys, and Ralph Humphrey coming in and playing, and even and Chester Thompson was the beginning of the really.
Right,
it's
the
like,
evolution.
I don't know if I'll ever be able to do some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And but I finally learned to play all the parts on Apostrophe, almost all of them.
Oh, that's my favorite.
I could do one of the songs. There's one song where they're playing 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Uncle Remus.
Yes.
That's about as I could play that. Now the whole 2 and 4 thing, and again, I don't want to say that there aren't places to employ more technical skills. The problem is that people that learn all that stuff think they're going to go out and change the world, and that doing all that stuff means you're a good musician. It may mean you're a good drummer, but that's really not what most music forms look for in a drummer. I mean, a drummer is first and foremost, in most forms of music, a timekeeper.
And the
Now,
foundation.
that doesn't mean you're supposed to just do a straight time beat. I mean, it doesn't mean turn on a metronome and suddenly that's good.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't mean to overplay. Now, there's some forms of music where playing 2 and 4 would have you kicked out immediately.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying there's some, and I'm not saying play 2 and 4 so you make money, because that's where most of the money is. And truthfully, it is. But I'm saying do that because it's the groove. I mean, that's the, if you don't really enjoy playing 2 and 4, maybe you just don't enjoy playing drums.
Yeah, I
enjoy
was going to say something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think first and foremost, you have to like playing drums.
Yes.
And that's if you want to be a drummer so you can do a bunch of fancy stuff, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and you're probably never going to make a nickel. And worse than that, you're probably not going to find anybody who'll play with you.
Yeah, and
if you play 2 and 4, and if they want more from you, they'll say, you spice that up, and then that's where you can get a little bit, go get a little bit crazier, get about 10% crazier, and you do it then. But you don't come in and so many tales of guys that come in and do all this fancy stuff, and they don't get the gig, and they don't even understand why.
Right, and I was gonna say that no matter what kind of music you play, whether it's salsa, whether it's a samba, whether it's really deep progressive rock, whether it's AC/DC-esque, no matter what style of drumming you play, jazz, old school jazz, whatever, getting really good at just keeping time and learning what the groove is all about will make you better at anything else you ever want to explore. Because if you don't have that to come back to for the verse or the bridge or whatever, it just all around it's where it all begins, rudiments and that, and the rest is all your personality and all extra. So thank you for addressing that. Before we run out of time, and I just got the message from Steve, and thank you, Steve. I want to ask you the Bermuda Schwartz fun fact question, and I'm going to do something with you that I normally don't do. Usually the question is this: John, when you're not playing drums, working on music in any way, what do you like to do? But I'm also going to throw in photography. So when you're not doing photography, when you're not playing drums, not doing music, what's the John Bermuda Schwartz fun fact question? Sleep.
I sleep. No. No. You know what? God. Well, I have a lot of stuff that is involved with drumming.
Right.
So I spend a lot of time online in drum forums, and I'm very accessible online. So people ask me questions. I watch TV. My wife and I take vacations. Not this year, sadly. Yeah. We've had, in addition to the Bermuda trip, there were a couple of other trips we had planned that we couldn't do, unfortunately. Right. And that's a nice getaway. But really, I'm content sitting in front of the computer and frankly, I have a TV behind me, behind the green screen.
Yeah.
And which is, it became a magenta screen. Where's my green screen? There we go.
Okay. That's pretty green.
I think that's more exciting than anything else we've seen so far. No, I'm not going to do that to you. Here's my CD collection.
There you go.
Now,
John's on every one of those CDs, by the way.
I've looked at every. Honestly, about 10% of those are still shrink wrapped.
Wow.
I buy a lot of CDs and I haven't listened to them. I was given a CD that I'm on. This is Ripmaster, so I've been playing with since 1981. Second only to Al in terms of my longevity. Yeah. And I haven't even opened it. It's still in its shrink wrap.
How funny.
Of course, I was there. I sort of remember the songs.
Yeah. Is there a common thread in the type of places you and your wife like to go on vacation, or is it just, no pun intended, all over the map as far as the theme? Like, is it big city, somewhere tranquil, somewhere exotic, somewhere obvious? Like, what's the deal?
There's a little bit of both, but we're also not afraid to go to the same place repeatedly. If we like somewhere,
why not?
We'll go back. It's not like, we've been there and we've seen it, and it's like, but we enjoy being there.
Right.
Like you go to a restaurant, and
You're
you know
not
you
gonna
want to
go
go
once.
again. It's not like, oh, we went once, we went there once, we'll try every time we go out, we'll try something different.
Right.
No, it's like if you like something, you know, you like a movie, you want to see it a few times. You like a record, you listen to it a few times.
So do you both agree on what your favorite destination has been? Do you both agree, or do you have two different picks?
No, there are. I think we agree that there are some specific places we really like. We love Hawaii.
Okay.
We love Vancouver. We love Toronto.
Woodland Hills.
We love Woodland Hills. Pacoima is nice this time of year. There's a restaurant there we went to one time. We love London. I think I guess maybe London would be our favorite place.
Really?
We've both been all over Australia.
Yeah,
and then
me
I've
too.
been back several times on my own. But I think we agreed that Sydney and Melbourne are pretty cool. We love those places. But I think London is, if we had a choice of anywhere we could move, you know, without any kind of citizenship or cost restrictions or whatever, I think we would probably go to London or
awesome.
thereabouts. And we really like London. So we haven't been in about 10 or 12 years, but
that's great.
we enjoy that. And you know, I've been lucky enough to get back a couple of times with Al. And just really, I love it there. I feel very comfortable there. If there's such a thing as reincarnation, I imagine that in a past life, I may have been British and lived in London, and because it just all seems very, it makes me feel very good there.
That's great. John Bermuda Schwartz, thank you so much for taking time to join me. Folks, John's going to be checking this over the next few days. So if you missed anything or if I missed any questions, we're running out of time, just in time, as Steven Schinder says, our associate producer, to be able to put it on Instagram and make it fit, which I do want to do. So that's the only reason. John and I could talk forever, and we have. So thanks for joining us, John. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on your project. I'm so excited about this.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to it. October 27th is the date it drops. Don't drop it, but the date it shows up everywhere.
And you can pre-order via the link in the post.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody, so much. And stay safe, everybody. John, hang on the line with me. And, folks, we will see you tomorrow, Wednesday the 12th. Wednesday the 12th at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern U.S. times. Dr. Nadia Azar joins me for another edition of Drumming Health. She's a professor of kinesiology, so we'll talk about repetitive motion injuries, drumming injuries. And I don't mean the kind of drumming injuries where your lead singer's bending your ear. That doesn't count. Schlepping your gear actually does count. So join us then. And then on the 15th, Greg Bissonette joins me for the first time on Drum Talk TV at the same time. We'll see you all soon. Take care, everybody.